Hello everyone, welcome back. If you're new, welcome in to another interview with the Life Coach podcast series. We are continuing our discussion on attachment, and today we are going to be talking about disorganized attachment style. So let's get started. What is disorganized attachment? So maybe you just took a personality, or maybe you just took an attachment style quiz and you found out that you have a disorganized attachment style. What does that mean? A disorganized attachment style, also known as a fearful avoidant attachment style, is characterized by inconsistent, unpredictable behavior in relationships. So you might be hot one second and want affection and emotional security and want to be really close to your partner or your friends, and then the next moment you're very cold. We all have natural tendencies to want to receive affection, right? To want to be loved. But then we also have a natural tendency to want to make sure that we can keep ourselves safe. So when we look at disorganized attachment, sometimes from the outside, it might be hard to understand where that disorganized attachment style is coming from. As a result of this hot and cold behavior, and occasionally the person on the other side of the relationship not being able to anticipate when their partner is going to want to spend time with them and when they're going to want to pull away, it can be difficult to navigate or difficult to understand where that person is coming from. So we're going to take a look at that today. Disorganized attachment style stems from trauma in childhood. So for example, if you were a child and you had a parent or a caregiver who was attentive sometimes and then emotionally abusive other times, if they had a drinking problem, or they were an emotionally unstable parent or caregiver, or if they were an emotionally unstable person, that came through in their parenting. So mom is very loving and kind until she's not, and then I need to watch my back because I'm no longer safe. So at times I can get the affection and love that I need, but I'm still walking on eggshells in a sense to look for any signs or triggers to let me know that I might not be safe. And then that's when something subtle comes up in the relationship that reminds them of that trigger, we're back to retreating and wanting to isolate away from the relationship to keep ourselves safe. Some of the reasons why a person with a disorganized attachment style might find it hard to maintain a relationship is because it's hard for them to be vulnerable. It's hard for them to trust someone because at an early age, the person that they were supposed to trust the most proved that they weren't trustworthy consistently. So if I know that me trusting you is going to lead to my potentially not being safe, either through verbal, emotional abuse, or actual physical abuse, of course there's going to be some hesitancy there to open up and have any hope for being in a healthy, non-toxic relationship, because you don't know what that looks like. It's not something that you've been exposed to before. On the other end of that spectrum, we have a natural tendency as humans to gravitate towards the familiar. That's another indicator that, okay, this territory that I'm going to go into is familiar, even if it's not safe. It seems more safe because it's familiar. So if you have developed a disorganized attachment style in childhood, you might be more prone to look for a toxic relationship as an adult because it's familiar to you, even though it's not safe. So if you're watching this video and you're thinking, oh man, Veronica, that's me, I think I have a disorganized attachment style, or you already know that you have a disorganized attachment style, and you're thinking, how do I get past this? I know I have a disorganized attachment style, and I want to move past that into a more secure attachment style. What are some tools that we can put in our toolbox to help us navigate some of those triggers that might come up in different relationships to help us, tools that can help us navigate those triggers more effectively. So we're looking at like friendship relationships, relationships with people at work, relationships with a significant other. This is a time to, especially if you're dealing with disorganized attachment style. I know in one of the other videos we talked about all of these attachment styles being on a spectrum, and that you might have like a different tendency to gravitate towards one attachment style in certain situations, and then maybe a more of a different attachment style in others. So like if you're around a parent who was abusive to you when you were a child, of course you're probably going to behave differently around them than you might behave with your coworkers in the workplace. If you are struggling dealing with trauma that happened to you as a child, or maybe you've had trauma as an adult and you're trying to work through it, a good therapist or a counselor can be an excellent resource to help you navigate through that. If you already have a therapist or a counselor that you're working with to help navigate through some of that trauma, and you have relationship goals for improving your relationship with yourself, or you're looking forward to continuing on to get ready to have a relationship with someone else, or to develop a healthier relationship with other people, I am a life coach, and that's a lot of what I do, is I help people to have a healthier relationship with themselves. So believe it or not, the relationship that you have with yourself impacts the relationship that you have with everyone else around you, right? And a lot of that is influenced by our attachment styles. The first people that we were around in those early stages of life that taught us how to love, right? They taught us how to love. They taught us how to love others. They taught us how to love ourselves and how we should receive love. If the person that you spent a lot of time with in your adolescence taught you that, when someone loves you, they're also abusive, you end up having a skewed perception of what it means to be in a healthy relationship. And this is why it's so important to work with a good therapist or counselor to navigate through that trauma. You want to have someone who can help you shift your perspective, right, into a new, healthier way of viewing the world. So, and sometimes people will say, well, I don't really feel comfortable with therapy or going to go see a counselor. I think I can do this on my own. And maybe you could, but how long would it take, and would it cause more harm in the meantime? You not having a healthy relationship is costing you, right? It can cost you. It can cost you your self-esteem. It can cost you your peace. It can cost you relationships, healthy relationships with a significant other. It can cost you healthy relationships at work, promotions, because you don't have a healthy relationship with yourself. Part of what I do is helping people to shift the relationship that they have with themselves, the relationship that they have with God, into a stronger, healthier relationship. A lot of this takes practice, right? It takes practice in our self-talk, the environment that we've placed ourselves in, the people that we spend time with, what we're feeding ourselves, what you're listening to in terms of television, music, people that you have who are in your circle of influence, what you guys are feeding each other. But it's something that can get better. If you're thinking, I don't like the way I feel right now, right? I don't like feeling like I'm walking on eggshells inside my own mind, overthinking, wondering, if somebody's happy with me, or what do I have to do to make them stay? Am I okay? Is it me? Is it them? All of the time. Life doesn't have to be like that. You are capable. It's possible for you to have healthy relationships with other people. It's possible for you to have a healthy relationship with yourself to recognize that you're worthy of it. I was actually listening to another personality in social media the other day. They were talking about attracting the partner of your dreams, and I talk a lot about that with what I do, how you can, if you have a healthy relationship with yourself, that it can help you attract the right partner. And she was saying how she didn't really agree with that, because so it's not like those people, just magically appear into your life once you develop a healthy relationship with yourself. But it's that, because she's right, they were always there, they're always around, but either you weren't attracted to them because you didn't find yourself worthy of them, we always end up pushing them away, or they will, if they happen to see the wonderful qualities in you, that are like, oh, this is a beautiful person, I want to be in her life, you push them away because you feel like you're not worthy of it. It seems unfamiliar, so it seems unsafe. Like, oh, this person likes me, what's wrong with them, right? This person's giving me compliments and treating me well. I don't know what that means. What they must want something must be wrong. And on the other side of that too, if you don't have a healthy relationship with yourself and you're telling yourself that you're not worthy, that comes across, right? When you're conversating with other people, that you don't really like or trust yourself. So it's hard for other people to like and trust someone who doesn't like or trust themselves. So once you start to improve the relationship that you have with yourself, that's magnetic, right? And you'll be able to attract someone who likes you for who you are, because you like yourself for who you are. I love you guys. I know we talked a little bit about ways to improve a disorganized attachment style. A lot of that starts off with the relationship that you have with yourself. If you have trauma that you still haven't dealt with from childhood, a good counselor or therapist is a good place to start with that. So another tool for navigating through a disorganized attachment style is reframing. So if you have a tendency to overthink certain situations, and maybe, let's say you come into work and your boss kind of looks at you sideways, get out a journal or have a notepad in your office where you can just write down any paranoid thoughts that you might have throughout the day. So then right next to that negative thought, like, oh, my boss looked at me sideways, she must be upset with me about something, I have to rack my brain trying to figure out why someone's upset. Before you do that, to just slow down and then write a counter thought on the other side of that. Like, oh, my boss just looked at me sideways, maybe she's having a rough day. And you can have a choice there too. You can go over to that person, smile, maybe give them a compliment, or you can say, oh, maybe he's having a rough time, he might need some space, and then an affirmation. So you'll have 3 columns, and then in the 3rd column you write an affirmation for yourself. I'm okay, I am safe. And this is good to do if we're talking about being in an environment where you actually are safe. However, if you happen to be in an abusive relationship, that's different. We don't want to be telling ourselves that we're safe if your partner's hitting you on occasion or something like that. But when it comes to overthinking, when you're no longer in an environment which was the cause for your unhealed trauma, right, that has resulted in this attachment style, we want to be able to separate that and to develop positive, proactive responses to old triggers, right? So we can move past those triggers and recognize that we have a choice, right? We can choose to develop a more healthy, secure attachment style. For another important tool that can help you manage a disorganized attachment style is to take a second to be self-aware, right? We're we want to take a look at what is supercharging the disorganized attachment style, and that's fear. Primarily fear of the unknown. I don't know what this other person is thinking, and so I'm telling myself a story, right? I'm telling myself a story because I feel like if I make an assumption, then that can help me be better prepared. But to encourage you, like, sometimes the best way to get an answer to a question, is this person upset? What is this person thinking? Is to go ahead and ask the question, right? So until we can become psychic, if we want to know how someone else is feeling, the easiest way to know is often to just ask. And if you're in a relationship with someone where it's not safe to ask them how they're feeling, maybe you want to take a step back and take a closer look at the nuances of that relationship and whether that's whether or not that's a healthy relationship for you to be in, or maybe a different way to approach the situation. But often the best way to solve a conflict is through communication. And that includes an internal conflict as well. If we want to resolve the internal conflict that we have with ourselves and with our disorganized attachment style when it comes to our relationships with other people, we can solve that through healthy communication. And making sure that we ask the question, are you okay? Is there something I can do? Are you upset about something? And then in the meantime, no matter what the person's response is on the other end of that conversation, to make sure that you continue to show yourself grace, right? Grace as we go, that we grow as we go, and we show ourselves grace as we go. So before I end this video, I wanted to share with you guys a couple of scriptures on dealing with a disorganized attachment style. So the first verse comes from Psalms chapter 121, verses 5 through 8. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and going, both now and forevermore. So as Christians, it's not your job to make other people like you, right? And even knowing that is a load off, right? All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. No one is perfect. And it's not your job to babysit other people's emotions. Like, even though when we were children, maybe we were in an environment where we had to walk on eggshells around our caregiver or a parent because we didn't know if we were going to be safe or not. But God doesn't want us to live that way. The only one we need to please is God. If we're living a life that is holy and acceptable to God, right? We have a relationship with God that's healthy. We're doing our best. We don't have to overanalyze every situation anymore, wondering what someone else is going to think. That we're safe. That we're held because of whose we are. The second verse comes from Isaiah chapter 41, verse 10. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand. So we're safe and we are loved. We are held because of whose we are. So if you put your faith and trust in God, you don't have anything to worry about. You're a child of the King. You're trusting in the creator of the universe, and not in man who makes mistakes, and not in men who sometimes can be hot or cold or be upset with you for no reason. It's not your job to cater to other people's needs. It's your job to walk by faith and not by sight. It's your job to be God's child and to trust him, to obey and to trust him. I love you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed this series so far. That we have one more attachment style to discuss. If you have any comments or questions, I always love hearing from you. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next episode.